Hey, it's Sylvan, and this is the Handpan Podcast. Joining me in this episode is my friend David at Samadhi Soundscapes, whose story of persistence, teaching himself how to build handpans before he had ever played one in person, is awe-inspiring. David lives in the city of Glasgow in Scotland. That's where I got the chance to meet him, to visit his workshop, and to record this episode. As a true artist, it seems like David is interested in everything. His workshop is like a museum of playful creativity. Of course, there are handpan shells and hammers everywhere, but you might also find a Captain of America shield that he handcrafted for his kids, and even beautifully sculpted wooden wands, like in Harry Potter, that he makes. It's truly fascinating. So let's jump right in to a conversation with David at Samadhi Soundscapes. Well, David, welcome to the Handpan Podcast, and thank you for welcoming me to your workshop here in Glasgow in Scotland.
You're very welcome. It's nice to be here and nice to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're in your shop outside of Glasgow and got a chance to look around and play your instruments. You have a really interesting story on how you got to start playing and building, and those are interconnected in your life. I'm curious to hear what drew you to the instrument first and what made you want to build it yourself.
Well, in 2002 in Barcelona, I was on holiday and I could hear this wee plinky noise somewhere, and it took me and my wife about 30 minutes going round the back streets of Barcelona to find where the sound was coming from. And then when I saw it, I was like, whoa, what is that? I've never seen one of these before. The usual thing that every one of us went through when we first see or hear a handpan or a hang. And that was 10 years after that. It'd been on my mind, but 10 years after that, I decided, I think I'll go and get one of those. That'd be quite good. But what I didn't realise was how hard it would be in 2012 to acquire one here in Scotland. I didn't even know if anybody in Britain had one. I'd never seen them here. So I spent probably most of that year researching all about them, watching videos on YouTube and trying to get myself one. But I had very little money at that point either, still don't, but at that time I had even less. And there was just no way I could get one, I could afford one for the prices that were getting asked for. I think I saw a first gen hang go for $10,000, I think, on eBay or something.
And back in 2012, there were only 5 or 6 builders.
That's
back
right.
Then.
That's right. Well, Mark from Saraz had just sort of come into the scene at that point, which was cool because I was looking on the forum, handpanforum.org, and that there was loads of wee tidbits of information there from the likes of Victor, who would give a couple of cryptic clues on how something was produced. But then Mark came in and he started to spill the beans a wee bit. He started to say, well, you should maybe temper it at this temperature for a wee while, And I read everything on there, and by the end of 2012, I was hammering a piece of steel with a hammer that I'd bought from a local store, and the journey began.
By that point, you still didn't own a handpan.
No, I'd never touched one, never played one, but I knew I could. I don't know how I knew, but I could. I just kind of felt that this was meant to be. I was meant to be involved in this somehow. So I just kept hammering away, and eventually I built what I thought the tools that I needed, like the jigs you needed to hold rings. I get rings made up by my local sort of fabricator. Got it all wrong, got all the wrong sizes. At one point I remember freeze framing David Waple's video and thinking and going, right, his finger looks about the same size as mine. So let me just measure his finger and measure the tone field to the back of it. All right, okay, that looks as if it's maybe 7 centimetres.
Wow.
So I guessed everything, and I got it all wrong. And I continued to get it wrong for a couple of years at least. But the lessons that taught me were invaluable, you know, absolutely invaluable.
As you've just shared, there's been a lot of trial and error in the process.
Mostly error.
And you're about 6 years into it.
Yeah.
What I love about your story is that you're still at it and you're smiling and you're enjoying yourself. It's very hard. It seems like a very hard journey, but you're getting joy out of experimenting and making these instruments.
It's taught me so much. There's so much I've learned from, and not just to do with how to hammer steel or tune a note. It's taught me about things like patience, which I've took into other areas of my life, you know, that when you get to the end of, say, your 10th prototype that you've made, when you finally manage to get tone fields that sound like something, and then your last blow of the hammer, you split the ding.
Oh.
There's a lesson to be learnt there, you know, and you would think that you would go crazy and forget it and leave everything and go away and go back to your old job again, but it drives you on. You just think, okay, right, I've learnt not to hit that quite as hard, so next time, or maybe adjust how you use your tone field presses, or you know, and also all the wee things that I've learned have helped me do all the other things, like we were talking about, the other things that I do in my life, whether it's the band or I make like the wooden wands. All these things I've stemmed from being able to build handpans. I'll teach myself to build handpans. So although there's been lots of errors and lots of mistakes, there's been nothing that I feel has been detrimental. Everything's been a good lesson for me.
Did you grow up in a family that was very handy? Were you good at building things from a young age?
My family were not handy, no. My father's DIY skills were legendary for being terrible. But I'm handy. I can build things, and if something needs done, I can usually work out how to do it. I love working things out, problems. And when in the early days, when I was trying to work out how to hold a piece of steel together, you know, how do you do that? How do you hold a piece of steel so that you can hit it with a hammer without it moving? I remember lying in my bed at night working through the problems of how to do that. And there's been so many wee things, like for instance how to do my tuning station, how I would make that so that I could spin my shell when I've got it in that. Loads and loads of wee problems like that, and I actually enjoy that. So no, nobody in my family were very handy, but my brothers are both musical as well. We've had this thing in our family where we all love singing and playing something. So at Christmas times and New Year, we would all get together and sing at parties. And we've all been blessed by having a wee ear for music. So that was what made me go for it. I think I said to you before, when I chucked my job and said to my wife, I'm going to chuck my job and build these things that I've never played or seen in real life, she was totally supportive. God bless her. She didn't know then what she knows now. But I kind of had the feeling that because I was a wee bit handy and because I had a good ear, that's the two things that you really need to be a builder, you know, and persistence. If you get persistence, and I just never give up. I'll just keep going until either my arm falls off or I get it right. And so far, I've still got two arms.
Yeah, I love your story, and I think it perfectly aligns with kind of the vision for the Handpan podcast, which is to experience the simple joy of creating, whether it's creating music or creating instruments or, you know, creating the tools to make your instruments. And so I appreciate you taking the time. Where can people follow your creative work online, David?
You can get in touch. I'm probably most active on Facebook, but my website has the Facebook and SoundCloud and YouTube links. And that is www.samadhisoundscapes.com. And I usually keep updated with whatever gigs I'm doing and any sort of ongoings of my crazy lifestyle choice that I've made.
Well, I'm excited to continue following your work, and I'm thrilled for the Scotland community of growing players to have you as a local builder, for years to come, to share your passion. So thanks again, David.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation with David. And how about that lovely Scottish accent? One thought that stuck with me after visiting David in Scotland was how joyful he was about making handpans. And yet you can tell that it wasn't all easy, right? In the episode, I think he shares part of the answer though. It's that he's okay with making mistakes. If he had been afraid of doing it wrong from the beginning, he would have probably never started to build handpans. And while I don't necessarily think that just anyone can be a handpan builder, because I think it takes a specific personality and skill set, I do believe that if we stop worrying about making mistakes and simply start creating, we'll get there. Not only will we get there, but I think we'll find joy in the process. So, no matter what you're creating, whether you're composing your own music, building your own instruments, putting together your own event like a handpan gathering maybe, starting your own podcast, be okay with making mistakes. That's what David did, and now he's making handpans, instruments that are incredibly difficult to make. So let's go and make stuff. That's it for this episode of the Handpan Podcast. If you want to experience the simple joy of creating, join our community on the Handpan Podcast Facebook group. It's a safe place to share your video and audio recordings, your thoughts and photos about your own creative journey. There's no competition or ego trip. It's just a place for us to connect in a meaningful way. So if that resonates with you, I hope to see you soon on the Handpan Podcast Facebook group. Thanks for listening to the Handpan Podcast, and see you in the next episode.